I had planned to have this update posted 2 days ago, but while working on it, my air conditioner stopped working. I figured out what was wrong, and with the help of my brother who knows about electricity, I replaced this part for $30 when the HVAC guy wanted to charge me $260. It pays to be curious. On to the update. Every summer I've always had a garden, but this April I woke up one morning and decided to get serious about growing my own food in the backyard. It has been work at times, but a great learning experience because I've learned you can homestead right where you are. I grew everything from seeds, and so far I've not had to use any pesticides while getting a decent yield from everything. So let's begin the tour. The spaghetti squash is now following true to form and climbing the trellis. For both the spaghetti and zucchini squash, I did companion planting of basil, beans, and marigolds to confuse pests. I did this knowing that where I planted legumes with marigolds, the legumes would be stunted, but also provide a little nitrogen fix to the soil. So, a necessary sacrifice. The outtakes for the spaghetti squash have slowed their growth, but are producing fruit, so I won't complain. Over to the long beds, you can see that the marigolds are pretty tall. All I've done is just provide nitrogen and use marigolds and basil to fight any pests other than the occasional grasshopper. And I live in Florida, the bug capital. The bush beans are doing quite well, and I'm continually eating them. The marigolds also seem to have helped the collards, although I do have to reach around marigolds to get to them. But the surprise has been the sunflowers. They started out with just buds and quickly began to produce flowers. I expected only one head on each, when this one has produced several. Again, no pesticides, just regular fertilizing. Oh yes, I guess the marigolds heard me complaining about no flowers because almost all of them are now producing different colored flowers. The strawberries, too, are still producing fruit and seem to like living with the basil to cut down on pests. These bell peppers seem to fit right in with basil, so the companion planting seems to be doing a decent job. The kale, too, has benefited from living among the marigolds and basil. Everyone has been complaining about aphids, but once the marigolds and basil took off, it hasn't been a problem for me. A squash beetle did get this little guy, and he never was able to come back, so I just left him as a sacrifice distraction to the squash in the larger beds. The cucumbers, too, had beans and basils as the companion plant and have been thriving. I found one beetle, and that was about it. The cucumbers are still a treat for me and Sunny Girl. I'm even learning how to pickle a few of them. I've started to succession plant the corn, as each stalk has produced the expected 2 ears per stalk with minor pest problems. I'm pleased with the yield because I've had problems with corn in the past. I'll probably take these stalks out as I harvest the corn and replace them with more peas and basil, which are already thriving in the bed. Over to the tomatoes, and they are everywhere. There are loads of them in both beds and containers. The basil has really worked here because other than the heat, which has been tremendous, I have had few, if any, problems with growth or yield. These are indeterminates, and I've cut back the heads a little so they can focus more on fruit, and it does seem to be working. And now to the pole beans that are climbing the string quite well, and even more are going through the top mesh. They too seem to have benefited from the basil plants in the bed. The tomato plant I put in with them is still having a nitrogen feast from the nitrogen the beans produce. My little patio herb garden is growing along nicely, and I place marigolds around the seating area after reading an article that good old marigolds ward off mosquitoes in addition to other pests. And finally, the pole beans in the hanging planters. Little by little, they are realizing they won't be supported and have begun to hang down. The lettuce I planted a few weeks ago have come to life, so I'll be thinning them out pretty soon. I think the heat has gotten to the blanket flowers at the bottom and top of the planter, but they are holding on. All in all, I've been more than pleased with my harvest so far. During a recent holiday get-together, I was able to create a cucumber tomato salad with basil garnish, along with a bush bean and mushroom cashew casserole that everyone gave rave reviews. And I'm not that great a cook. I've now set up a propagation station for tomato plants and more basil. This way I can do succession planting right from my existing plants to get a head start on new growth. So, companion planting has gotten my vote in that it really cut down on pests in addition to helping me get maximum use out of limited space. But let me be clear, companion planting plants that confuse pests did not eliminate them, but did give my garden a chance to take off. And now I have to finish off that casserole. See you next time.